Okay, welcome back to another video. This is part part 4 of our Middle East series. So in part 3, I encountered a glitch that would not let me progress, so we're back on square 1. So in part 2, we saw the rise and fall of the Cypriotian Empire, following the Great Coalition that defeated them. We saw the Second Yemeni Republic make gargantuan gains and assert itself as the dominant power of the Red Sea. We saw the breaking away of the Sinai, Egypt, the North African Republic, Northern, Central, as well as Northern and Central Mesopotamia, as well as Kuwait, the founding of the Qatar UAE, the various Ethiopian nations, the Red Arabian downfall to an extent, the rise of Istanbul, the collapse of Anatolia into 2 countries, and the Caucasians forming Taoism. The division is ongoing. There's 6 more turns of it. So let's see what happens. So the South Sudanese will make gains to basically, have a land border with their friend in Ethiopia. South Sudan will move again. They'll get a small split, but troops from the Central Ethiopian will not allow this to happen. Caspia will unite. Now they could unite with Caucasia, but the Caucasians don't want to risk it yet. They don't want to do that. As a result, Caspia will be forced to not be able to send a union request. So the Caucasians will make an expansion. They will control all of this. They'll then use their manpower to hopefully connect with Caspia. This push is indeed successful. The Egyptians will move and a new nation will form. So this new nation forms in right around here. So where will this new nation form? So the Red Arabians are desperate to do something. So as a result, they will have their troops march down over here and form Oman. We will have the formation of Red Oman, and this nation will have this color. It will have this part of Somalia. And meanwhile, another new nation forms up. Question is where? Well, the answer is simple. Representatives from Kuwait, the United Eastern Arabs, Caspia, Caucasia, Central Mesopotamia, and Northern Mesopotamia all meet up right here. They all meet up and they all agree to collectively form own jointly managed colony in southern Iran. This is to ensure that they're not fighting over it. So basically, these guys will form the joint colony of southern Iran. And we will be giving it a color like this. This is roughly in the middle of like green, yellow, blue. It will take all this area that the Qataris control. So that's one thing they agreed on. The Qataris would be forced to give up this area, but in exchange, they would be given economic rights. They'd be allowed to keep any military stuff they had over here. So these 5 nations, this is what I like to call the the Iranian alliance. They all want to control Iran. They're all good friends. And are gonna fight each other. So now troops and money will flow into the Iranian colony, and they will start marching further and further. They will just keep on marching. Second Yemeni Republic. Okay, small expansion. The question is who they go to war with. They decide to further march down the Nile. They will be nearly successful in completely linking up. The Sinai will have a new leader, and the Iranian colony will get even more money, and they will get closer and closer. Ethiopia will have a new leader. Egypt will have a small expanse. They will expand. It will take all of this. So basically, in exchange for the Yemenis ceding this area to Egypt, the Egyptians agree to not do any like blocking the Nile River. They collectively agree on sharing any like electricity and water that flows through here. They agree to share that with the Yemenis in exchange for additional trade rights. Because Egypt and Sinai are friends. They're like in an unofficial alliance. So also what happens in Arabia. So what happens is, here's what happens. So troops that are paid off by the Yemenis, they will call this nation. We will call this nation Yemenis funded insurgents. Now, they don't know the Yemeni government, like the ones over here. They have no idea this nation was paid to be formed by the they have no idea who funded this. No one knows about this. So Yusuf, their leader, will do a medium expanse. The question is where. He does not know that the Yemeni are the ones who paid for this, right? So he decides to, instead of dealing with the insert, he decides to first connect with his colony, and that is indeed successful. They will then start their push, but push will be slow. This is because first off, they use land power, and second of all, because Yemeni weapons are just that much better. So the Yemeni-funded rebels will start pushing further, and it's not looking good. They have regained practically everything, and they will then seize this. So Red Arabia will go, and the Age of Division starts again. The Yemenis go again, and they found a religion. This religion will be known as Yemeni. So we will call this Yemeni Islam. And this will be certainly interesting. So now, the Second Yemeni Republic is a Buddhist nation. So, the insurgents will start moving. They'll get a small split, but troops from Yemen's army will eviscerate the rebels. The Yemen will get a small split. So the question is, where does this form? The answer is it forms in Egypt, and the simple reason is because the Egyptian people living in Yemen, they barely have a land border with them. As you can see, it's not exactly the closest. So as a result, although this is a major economic blow, the Yemenis government figures, well, if we can eventually, hopefully, be able to get ourselves more land in the Red Sea area, they hope that they'll be able to conquer all of this area. They want to conquer all of this to get hegemony over this area, like the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf. They want to get full control over this because only the Big Five, the Iranian Five, as a I'm going to call them, the Iranian Five are the only ones who know about this colony. No one knows about it. And well, yes, you could say that you could say that these guys know, the Red Arabians, but if someone finds out about that, then they don't want them finding out. They want to be able to get something. So they won't be the only ones trading, because they need money right now. But in the meantime, what becomes known as Southern Egypt will form. Now this move will annoy the Yemanis, but at the end of the day, they would much rather not have to deal with war. They'd much rather not be at war with their own people. So as a result, they decide to let this issue go. It pains them, but they do. And then the these guys will have a split. And what happens is the Egyptians want control over this, and then the Yemanis want to regain at least this area. So they want to reassert their pact. So as a result, it becomes known as the Egyptian Yemeni insurgents. Funded insurgents will rise up in the north. They will be given a color like this, and they will secure all this fort. This is a blow, to say the least. They will get a small split, but the two combined armies will obliterate them, any rebels. Now Yemen wants to regain land, so Yemen will push, and that they will. They will secure this lake. It will be a quick conquer. It will connect their assets in Yemen, the core area. This region is unstable. The Yemanis ordinarily had a land border, but now they have a small strip connecting them. They're planning on making more roads connecting each other. The Anatolians will get a split. So what happens is the Turks fund a rebellion. So as a result, it becomes known as Turkish-funded Southern Anatolia will rise up. The Anatolians already had funded, the Turks had already funded Northern Anatolia, but now they're funding even larger, because the Anatolians are like this timeline version of the Kurds. No one wants them to exist, despite them being a very vocal minority. And this area used to be the Anatolian government before they lost to Turks in the war, because the Cypriot Empire and the Anatolians fought the Turks, the people from Istanbul, following during the Great War that basically ended the Cypriot Empire. The Turkish government succeeded in seizing the rest of Anatolia, but during the war, chaos broke out since the Turkish army was busy fighting the Cypriots. So they were taking over Crete and Cyprus. They kept fighting over Cyprus. That's why there were two forts. This fort was made by Cyprus, this one, and this fort was made by the Turks. And this is the cultural capital of the Cypriots. This was their actual capital before Sinai took it. And the Cypriots want to take it. They want to. So as a result, the Cypriots will authorize an invasion, but a new leader who is a peaceful person replaces him. So as a result, the invasion is cancelled. So now we have a new nation forming up. So what happens? So the Turks are never going to Cyprus independence because they need this outpost. If the Turks can get this outpost, they can secure the Syrian fort. They want this. If they take it, it's impossible for it'll basically cripple what remains of the military of the Cypriots. The Cypriots still military. It's much smaller than it was during the Great War, but it's still somewhat big. So they want the Turks to know never to give Cyprus independence. They won't give Crete independence either. The North Africans have good relations with the Turks. Both of these nations were founded to take out the Cypriots, so the Turks don't mind them. So the Cypriots are debating it, right? They debate whether or not to try to link up North. So they debate, right? So they're thinking, do we fund a group to go to Iran? Do we fund a group to see what's in these mountains? So a vote is held, and the Cypriot government realizes, well, if we lose, we may as well somebody to succeed us. So as a result, it becomes known as Cypriot Iran forms. They will send their troops, and this nation will form. It will form here along this river. It will form here. It's like disconnected. It will connect. It will then secure this whole lake, at least most of it. These people are mountaineers. Cyberregions will be pumping money into this thing because they need a win. They need to make sure their people know that they are doing something. Because the people are not happy right now. You can't really blame them because the Cyberregions used to be the most powerful country. So basically, the Cyberregions desperately want a win. And we will see if that happens. I am just renaming them. Region Empire. Okay, that's better. I've always called them Cypresian, but on the map they were just Cyprus. Now you can tell. So Istanbul will move and they'll get a large expanse. So, question is, what do they do? So, do they decide to first take over all of this? They want to take over this entire river, which they are successful in, but they do not want to put them to this fort. It's too risky. So they will instead continue their march. They will march along this. They will then rapidly secure the Cypresian forts, both of them, and this move practically doomed the Cypresian military. At this point, they're crippled permanently. They have no forts. Well, at this point, they're officially a client state. So as a result, their leader is forced to become a vassal. So as a result, he will no longer be an emperor. I wasn't actually an emperor before, but basically following the war, the name emperor has changed to be Cypresian king. It used to be emperor because they had empire over all this, but they were forced to make it king, so they were only the king of this city. Like a really weird symbolic thing. That's also why they made it convert to Buddhism. So the Cypresian government will be forced to now become a duchy. What do you call a male Dutch? Like a duchess? I don't know. Okay, we'll just call them a Dutch. What was her name? It was Dutch something. Dutch was Dutch Magda. So we will call this. This will be the Duchess of Cyprusia. So in other words, if Cypresian form a puppet already at this point, they're guaranteed to be a puppet. So Istanbul has been led by Said for an absurdly long time. So he will force them to become landlords. He'll take all of this. In other words, he just wants to keep bullying the remnants of Cypresa and surrendering. So as a result, what's left of Cypresa is at this point back into a corner. So the Cypresians be forced to unite with Istanbul. I'm just kidding, they will not unite. See, Istanbul does not unite with them because they would never allow their king to be forced in a union. They are not the ones to accept the union. The duchy must. So as a result, they will not be allowed to send a union request. Turks, however, they will instead decide to expand, and I mean, you know what's gonna happen. They're just gonna do this. At this point, I mean, you're Cypresian, I don't even know what to tell you. A small split happens, but Turkish army, they will put it down. Turkish army is the strongest at this point. They're unsurprisingly able to put it down. And that's what happens. But once again, the Turks are just barely put it down. Now, this split heavily destabilizes us then. But now the Turkish government knows if they get one more split, they're done. And then the Turkish government decides to, in order to, tell the people that they're doing something important, they will send out an exploratory force. And where's this force go? Well, the answer is simple. They will march through this desert and continue making the spirit until they eventually reach here. They find out that Kuwait exists, and then they tell them that Qatar exists. Qatar, they know that if they invade Qatar is highly risky. They obviously don't know about the military alliance, but they find out, you see these signs, and they're confused because they see, joint colony of these countries. They know it's of Kuwait and know Qatar. Just found out about those two. They know about these guys. They border them. They don't know about Cyprus and Iran though, but they've been searching for documents and they're bound to find out. They know, following their capture of Anatolian documents, they know of Caucasian existence. They then send out an envoy, and they find out about Caspian existence. So now, the Turks know all this. They also find out about the existence of Cyprus and Iran, and they will force Cyprus to give this area up. So while this is happening, the Turks decide, you know what? We need it. The Turks decide to... However, they initially decided to form a new nation, but they realized that they're so unstable from two major splits that they were just barely able to hold off. Probably shouldn't do that. So instead, they will send the Iranians, the joint Iranians, some money. And they use this money to expand further. So then, what happens is some Iranians decide, you know what, let's see what's over here. We see a bunch of flatland, and they decide to form a civilization along these rivers. So we will form what becomes known as Eastern Inner Iran is formed. And the Turks decide to not tell anyone about this. So as a result, we have 3 colonies in Iran, right? You have the joint Iranian colony, who is run by the Big Five, the Iran Five. We have the Cypriot Iran, which was controlled by Iran, but now the Turks are going to, force them to give it up to them. And then the new split from the joint Iranian colony to form this thing. And they mostly don't care about this thing. They couldn't care less about these guys, because they think they're gonna die. These mountains are high, there's a river, sure, but no one knows whether or not these things come to Caspian Sea. They don't. They don't know that. They don't know any of this links up. The Caspian, they know about this lake, so they want to spearhead to this lake. They also have an idea that there might be a river, but they're not sure. So what happens is the Turkish-funded Southern Anatolians have a split, but the Turkish army cracks down. As a result, the split is averted. Let me just change their color. Perfect, now I can tell them apart. The United East Arabs will make a move. They're replaced by a new leader. They won't encounter a small split. But, in order to ensure that the Iranian colony is funded, troops from Kuwait, the Kuwaiti army, will agree to send help to the Qataris. In exchange for this, they agree to give up their military access to some small Sunni Iranian lands in exchange. So the Qataris will agree. The split is put down, and it's inverted. So now the Central Anatolians, who are funded by the Turks, will make gains in Anatolia. They want to force these guys out. No one likes these guys. Once again, they are despised by everyone. No one likes them. Istanbul move, they get immediate defense. At this point, the Turkish times of troubles are ending. Although it was bad initially, their allies, at least the army they funded, has successfully pushed back their major enemy. Their major enemy is surrounded by them on all fronts. The Turks have gotten a slice of the pie in terms of the Iranian agreement. As a result, the Turks decided, you know what, we should take over some inland areas, or we could do a naval landing. So as a result, they asked the nation if they can seize them. They politely say no. So the Turks decide, well, we don't want to get into too many wars. The Turks know that their nation is unstable. Still is unstable to a degree. It's not as bad as it was a few turns ago. It still is bad. So the Turks decide that they are better off making a few small gains inland for the time being. The Turkish government will adopt a religion. It's not Buddhism. They found it after all. Meanwhile, the joint colony will get a large expand. The Turkish government's money is helping them. As we can see, they will successfully get up to here. Now the question is where they go now. The vote is held between the Iranian six now, who are the six major shareholders in this colony. I'd like to mention, by the way, the Sinai does have a minor share in it, and the Yemanis did contribute with like some maps. But aside from that, the six main fundraisers are, as we all know at this point, Kuwait, northern central Mesopotamia, Asia and Caspia, and then Qatar, UAE, and then last but not least Istanbul. Those are the main six. Then plus some minor help from the Egyptians, Sinai, and Yemen. But those are all minors. Those people, they all contribute to minor stuff. So they will consider. The question is where. So the Kuwaitis want to build a major trade route linking up Cyprus and Iran, or at this point just central Iran, to Kuwait. Meanwhile, the Kuwaiti government, the Qatari government, I should say, wants to have the colony connect by land, have make a small port right here that will get them this little chunk of land. These two small chunks are what is given to them. These two small pieces of land that no one had claimed yet, so they will be given these two ports. So as a result, both nations decide, you know what, we're going to allow small ports to be built. So a small port is built here. The the Kuwaitis then encourage them to expand using this. So these ports are, albeit absurdly small, they are successful. So as a result, some very small ports will be made. First off, we have an incredibly small port of what becomes known as Kuwait Joint Kuwait Iran Port. This port is founded. This port is owned by both countries. Both countries own a small portion of it. Qataris have their port. They have a northern and a southern port. This is a northern port. Northern Iran UAE port. I'm going to call these guys Qataris a lot, because I keep forgetting that UAE is included in them. And then the southern port. Southern. So as you can see, these small ports have been founded. This will allow for ease transportation and shipping between these guys. So the Iranian six are still cooperating. They're all still good friends. Alright. They all are still good friends. So their alliance is still holding. Now Central Ethiopia will have a revolt. But troops from Yemen, as well as the core Ethiopian government, will send in guys to deal with these. And there's one simple reason, that being the fact that Ethiopia is somewhat unstable since the Cyprian collapse. It's been much easier for these guys, but it's still hard. So the Yemanis will have a union. Question who will the Yemen? Who will the Yemanis unite with? Now, if you're Yemani, you can unite with several nations, right? You can unite with the Sinai, but they don't want to do that. Because the Sinai is, they do not want to be near the Turks. They don't hate the Turks, but they generally don't want to deal with being on the Turkish border. Because not many nations, like the Yemanis, don't really trust the Turks. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're have good relations. They're not like they're not like allies. Like they're not allies like Sinai. Sinai's pretty good friends with Turkey. Turkey would invade them. The only time Turkey would invade them is if they like needed like an emergency, like they need to send troops and didn't have time to request. Then then they would. But without that, they wouldn't. So they will unite with their insurgent group to ensure that their army planning is easier. So this will make Yemeni war plans easier. Not if they split, but the Yemeni military, since they are formally like part of their since the Yemeni insurgents are part of their nation, they now also have help for the insurgents. So the rebels, they agree to give them more autonomy in this Egyptian area, but in exchange, they could remain part of Yemen. So Anatolia will build a castle. This castle, they can build it anywhere, right? So they decide to build it. They could build it here, but they don't trust it. No, they're bordered on all sides by threats, and these guys are pushing the most. So they will form South Central Anatolia. This is for Anatolians will then desperately try to move. They'll get a large expanded, but they will try to use this. But at the end of the day, their plan fails. They will attempt to do some stuff. The first thing they will do is they will take this area. They will then attempt to spearhead. They will then do several. Since they do, but then Northern Anatolia will strike, get a leader. They get a small split, but Turkish troops will hold them off. So then Northern Anatolia will get another new leader. Turkey represent another issue. Another split happens, but once again, the Turkish army is prepared for this. They know this is unstable. Finally, they will adopt a religion. They will adopt Buddhism. At this point, they're one of the few nations. I think they're the only nation in Anatolia not have it yet. So Northern Anatolia will desperately keep trying, but they will fail. Turkish government can do. No one wants to form a nation at this point because it's risky. Simply put, if you form a nation in Iran, then you're gonna have to deal with the Iran Sikh. The Cypriots are basically dead in the water at this point. The Turks have only not invaded them yet because they have more pressing matters to attend to. The Egyptians can't form a nation because they're bordered on all sides. The North Africans are basically just kind of there at this point. The Yemenis don't want to form a nation. They're already dealing with it enough. The Ethiopians have figured there's no point hiding themselves anymore. Now, the Yemenis aren't going to attack them. So as a result, all nations decide, you know what, for now, no nations are formed for a time being. It's only temporary, obviously. A large expand happens. The Central Mesopotamians will secure their port access, so will secure sea access. So, like, what that means is they basically have a trade route that's like connected by land now. It would then move up this river. No one's tried to seize it yet. They will then have another connection with their ally. They would have a union. So who they unionize with? They decide to unionize with Northern Mesopotamia and Kuwait to form a new nation. Now, the Iranian Sikhs, they all agree on something. No new nations should be formed near the Red Sea area. See, they all agree that this land, they have zones of occupation, right? Kuwaitis will have, so basically, if Iran is ever split, this colony is ever split into zones of occupation, so here's what they plan, right? Kuwaiti zone is roughly here. Qatari zone expands to here. They have a huge chunk because they were the main provider, plus they had to give up land. Then what's left is going to be considered the independent portion. Or alternatively, they're planning on giving this small lake area, all this, they're planning on giving everything east of this lake to Yemen. This whole middle strip, though, this area, no one knows what to do with it. So this will be a small independent area. So basically, if this colony ever like splits due to like these two going to war, something like that, that's what the colony would be roughly split up, right? But there's an agreement not to any massive expanding. That is because, simply put, because that would basically ruin the whole point of making the Iran 6. They did this to have all have equal rights over the Iranian colony. At least the core 5, they get 20%. The are Turks are given 5% of each. So basically, the way it works is it's a system based off of 5. It's the initial 5. So what they do is the Turks get 5%. So basically, they get like 50% of all the taxes, if you will. What that means is, so the taxes the Iranian colony must pay, because the people can pay a small tax. It's not too significant, but the Turks get the tax. It's not much, but the Turks really want to have a slice of the pie when it comes to the Iranian colony. They know that Iran seems to be quite a fruitful endeavor, because it's lasted a while at this point. This colony has been extremely successful. Pretty much everyone is in agreement that it's a highly good endeavor. No one wants to ruin it. I mean, this thing's been in existence for 50 years at this point, and each turn is a year. So this thing has existed for half a century, and it has been extremely stable, well-funded. No wars have been fought over it yet. So the point is, this is like the best colony to invest in, so no one wants to rock the boat. And this makes sense. The core Iranian 5 don't want to deal with it, because they know that none of these guys are giving up their trade hegemony. These guys, the Kuwaitis, the Qataris, they both want to control this small area, and both sides have a mutual understanding that this Iranian colony will make it roughly equal. So this is mostly to ensure that this is like a really stable thing, believe it or not. I mean, I know on a map, you can't. I mean, if the Iranian 6 broke up, this thing would be way weaker. It'd probably be prone to splitting. The main reason why this thing was able because of the armies of each country are stationed in, except for Turkey. Turkey wouldn't really be able to do that. But the main two to have like a connection to them, these guys could just hold this area down. So in case of a rebellion, the way it works is simple. Everything west of this is under Kuwaiti military jurisdiction. So it's what happens. Qataris deal with the Kuwaitis deal with this. The Qataris deal with everything else. And then this area is up to the Yemeni army, which I know the Yemenis don't control this area yet, obviously, but the Yemenis know that they're eventually going to take it. But I don't know when, but they know they will. So anyways, let's get on with it. North Africans will do something. They unionize. They will unionize with Egypt. And then they'll get a new leader. So Sinai is preparing. And Sinai get a small split. And this region becomes known as itself as the Suleiman Republic. And this is mostly because they want to reform the Cyprian. This will be known as the Neo-Cypresian Empire. So almost immediately, this results in a major war. So as a result, troops from not just so as a result, troops from the Turkish, Istanbul, if you will, they'll send their forces in. Meanwhile, the Sinai are tasked with securing this lake. Turkish troops will take over to hold the city. Turks have the better military when it comes to peace and holding down the city, because the Sinai, they have allies on their south and northern border. Turks, on the other hand, they're constantly having to fund these two to prop up these two armies. So Istanbul will unite. The question is with who? Well, the answer is simple. They will unite with southern Anatolia. That's what will happen, but the Turkish army was prepared for something like this happening just to be safe. But, unfortunately, the Cyprian government has secretly been using their funds from Iran because Cyprian people living in Iran, they completely hate the Turks. So as a result, it becomes known as the Northern Cyprian will form up. And these guys are funded by this core Cyprian government. So this will heavily weaken Turks. In fact, it will take this fort, and they will then control Cyprus. It's a major blow. Like, this is like deep death blow for right now, at least. They will control all of this. Oh, good. We'll take all of this land. So now, this is a major event. The Preten's will are now back. So, that being said, this is the final turn of the video. Troops from the the split is prevented because Kuwaiti troops are not going to allow member Fallen 6 to collapse. So, this is the final event of the video.